Hey, Treasure History! Today's essential question is, how did the Silk Road cause cultural diffusion? You don't need your notebook today, just your independent practice packet, so please pause and turn to the Monday page in your packet. Last week we learned about many philosophies of ancient China. Do you remember what it was called when the Chinese believed that their gods chose the emperor, and that if the emperor did a bad job and was dishonest or unfair, the gods would replace him? Good, how about this one? Which of the following accurately describes the Great Wall of China? So today we're actually going to talk about the opposite of the Great Wall of China. Instead of talking about barriers and about people being isolated in China through both natural barriers and man-made barriers, we're going to learn about how China actually ended up spreading their goods all over the world. A superhighway of trade existed that led from China all the way to Mesopotamia and beyond. Please read along with me. Make sure to annotate by circling keywords, underlining key points, and making just a short central idea statement for all the paragraphs. The Silk Road is one of the clearest examples in history of cultural diffusion. The Silk Road was a trading path from China in Eastern Asia all the way to the Mediterranean Sea near Greece, Rome, and Egypt. Along the Silk Road, the Chinese traded many inventions like porcelain, paper, gunpowder, and silk, for which the road is named. But China wasn't always open to trading with other countries. A Chinese explorer named Zhang Qian opened the way for trade between China and the West in 138 BCE. He was one of the first emperors to travel on the Silk Road. He brought back horses and grapes from his journey, but more importantly, he was able to begin the Silk Road. The Silk Road gets its name from one of the most valuable items traded on the road: silk. Traders from the West wanted silk that was only made in China. Only the Chinese knew how to make silk. They made the fabric using the cocoon of a silkworm. The Chinese kept the way to make silk a secret, and people could be punished by death for sharing the secret. One group that really wanted silk was the Romans. Silk was rare and expensive at that time. Traders were willing to travel far and dangerous distances to attain silk. The Romans traded silk for glass, which was what they made, and it was highly valuable in China. For a really long time, the ancient Romans did not know who was making this wonderful fabric called silk. The Romans first discovered pieces of silk in the goods that they took from some of the people that they conquered. But these people did not know where the silk was made. They had traded for it too. So the Romans tried to find the traders as they came into villages to trade silk for other goods. But the traders hid from the Romans. They didn't know who made the silk either. They had traded it for themselves. The trading along the Silk Road was a relay system. One trader would travel for a while, stop and trade, and return home. The next traveler would continue, stop, trade, and return home. And so it went. No trader made the whole trip because it was too dangerous. The desert had little or no water. The mountains were brutal. Sandstorms would blow up out of nowhere. Snakes were poisonous. And on top of everything else, there were pirates. So the Silk Road allowed for ideas to be traded as well. As people traveled from place to place doing business, they encountered new ways of life and new ideas from other places. Sometimes people would bring those new ideas and customs back to their homeland and share the ideas with those around them. The Silk Road is what allowed the Buddhist religion to travel from India to China, causing millions of people in China to become Buddhist. Now pause your video to answer our essential question: how did the Silk Road cause cultural diffusion? Make sure to pull a quote that matches your answer and adds interesting detail. Be ready to share your quote with your partner after the video. Alright, you should be done with step 1 and step 2 if you're hearing this. Make sure that you use complete sentences, you restated the question in your answer, and for step 2, you introduced your quote. Please go back to your playlist and push 4.0 until we all come together for practice.